Good night, folks. Let's fight. Welcome in the ring to each and every one of you from the many places you're joining us from around the world, at home in the diaspora. Good to have all of you on with us this evening, good folks. Let's fight. We trust that you guys are good and well wherever you're joining us from. Share that live for us. Smash that emoji button as well, folks. You're joining us from the many places you're joining us from. It's a real privilege to have each and every one of you here with us, folks. It's pace and power. That's what it's all about tonight, good folks. Pace, pace and power. Happy, and delighted to have each and every one of you with us this evening, folks. Good to have all of you here with us. Share that live for us. Smash that emoji button. Our color's a little off tonight. Bear with us, good folks. Our color slightly off tonight, but bear with us. We got a lot of things to share with you folks. You all know we're heading into this general and regional election period, and all kinds of things we're meeting with folks. All kinds of things we got to contend with. The opener tonight, as we open, good to have all of you on with us this evening. Those of you who I saw early on at that send off for our girl Debbie, great to have you guys here with us. And what a time it was this afternoon, folks. What a time it was. The opener, folks, as we begin tonight, that 2025 election is upon us. Believe it or not, it is upon us. Your girl Claudette, y'all know she's seen few and far in between. Few and far in between, and word is on the ground. She's fully 100% now on the other side. That's what we hear. On the other side. Y'all know what we're talking about. On the other side, folks, we got a lot of things we got to discuss. We got to keep our eyes open. We got to stay sharp this particular election here. Folks, over the weekend, we saw Commissioner Vincent Alexander. He was on Nation Watch with the one and only Mervyn Williams talking about all things GECOM. And one of the things that Commissioner Alexander circled back to, one, you remember those ballot boxes on the East Coast. We didn't quite know how those votes got in them because we didn't have any statutory documents in those ballot boxes. We didn't have any polling books and so on. And you all remember, we found a lot of people who also were out of the country, but yet miraculously cast a vote on election day. Those were some of the issues Commissioner Vincent Alexander dealt with on Nation Watch on Sunday, and I thought it was so important. So, folks, here is part of that interview. Listen to how Mervyn Williams, the moderator, sets up the question, provides the background, and then Commissioner Alexander told us what transpired and why we know conclusively that persons impersonated others, cast a vote in their stead on election day 2020. That's why we know that portions of that election, it was fraudulent. Fraudulent, folks, fraudulent. Take a look. Take a listen. You open up.
I want to get down to some evidence now. Evidence which Mr. Nandlal suggests that you or the PNC has never made public. We look now at a letter from the Guyana Elections Commission, Office of the Chairman, dated May 22nd, 2020, signed by Justice Claudette Singh, SC, CCH, Chairman, Guyana Elections Commission. It says it's addressed to the Commissioner of Police, Leslie James, DSS, Police Headquarters, Ivleary. The Commissioner, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is the Chief Immigration Officer, and it is in this capacity that he was written to. The letter says, Dear Commissioner, the APNUFC is alleging that persons whose names and dates of birth appear on the list attached had migrated and could not have exercised their franchise on March 2nd, 2020. In this regard, I shall be grateful if you will be so kind as to cause the Immigration Department to verify whether these persons were out of the country on March 2nd, 2020. Their respective polling divisions and stations where these persons allegedly voted are also identified on the list. The Commission would wish this matter to be urgently addressed. This is May 22nd, 2020. And in response, the Commissioner of Police, Leslie James, on the 27th of May 2020, replied to Justice Claudette Singh, SCCCH, Chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, as follows. Dear Madam, I refer to your letter dated May 20th, 2020, and forward herewith report from Deputy Chief Immigration Officer for your information. And there's a list attached here. And on this list, the Chief Immigration Officer lists 172 names as persons who did not arrive or return on or before March 2nd, 2020. These persons were out of the country on March 2nd, 2020. 172 names. And he also attaches a list of 35 names, the names of 35 persons who he said did not depart before 2nd March 2020. In other words, these 35 persons were in the country. So of that list of 207, 35 persons were in fact in the country and so were entitled to vote.
Not only entitled, but
evidently voted. And the other 172 were not in the country, although votes were cast in their favor. There's another letter here responding, the police commissioner, chief immigration officer, responding to Claudette Singh, retired justice of the appeal, on the 8th of June 2020, to another request for similar information. And he says, I refer to your letter dated May 31st, 2020, and forward herewith report from Deputy Chief Immigration Officer for your information. And on this list, the letter, could we have the second letter from the Office of the Police Commissioner on screen, please? Thank you. On this list, attached to this letter, I beg your pardon, is a list of the names of 211 persons. 211 persons who were in fact not in the country on March 2nd, 2020, although the evidence is that votes were cast in the names of these persons. And there's an attachment of a list of 99 names, the names of 99 persons who were in fact in the country and evidently voted. This, ladies and gentlemen, is evidence that the Elections Commission wrote to the Chief Immigration Officer, presented two lists, and got information that in one instance, 211 persons were not in the country and votes were cast for them. In another, 172 persons were not in the country and votes were cast in their names. Ms. Alexander, talk to us about this issue and take us down the path of Mr. Anil Nandlal writing to the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, requesting and subsequently obtaining additional lists of names which were intended to be sent to the Chief Immigration Officer for similar scrutiny.
First of all, let me say the question that Nandlal posed was how persons could have voted with all of the mechanisms that are in place. And I would simply reference what Jagbio said in this regard.
We need enhanced biometrics, because when some presiding officer said, like we had some cases in Victoria, this is Mr. X, just looking at the photo, and the polling agent from the party sits across the room or is in a hostile area, is afraid to object, they allowed a number of people to vote who should not have voted. But if you have biometrics, enhanced biometrics outside of just a photo ID, it could minimize that happening. We are going to push for electronic voting.
Jagbio argued that persons in 2015, I think, would have been able to vote because of the bias of the presiding officer. So that's the answer to you, Nandalal. The answer is right in Freedom House. Freedom House has the answer that the bias officials, notwithstanding all the mechanisms, would have been allowed to vote. And there's a lot more one can say about that, about who are the officials, how local they are, how intimidated political representatives are at the place of poll, etc. But two things. The PPP came to the conclusion that it was possible for this to occur. We have gone beyond that conjecture and now have evidence that it occurred. And therefore, this issue that is argued very often, even by other people other than the PPP, including certain news houses, that the system is perfect, is now a non-issue, because whether you think the system is perfect or not, here is evidence of the imperfection of the system. Here is the evidence. And what that evidence is, the APNU AFC used the period of the recount, and we need to observe this. This kind of information cannot become available in a normal count. Because in a normal count, all that occurs is that you count the ballots. You do not, and what you do, you correspond the number of ballots with the number of names ticked off. You don't try to determine the status of a person when you're doing the normal count. All you do is you count how many persons are ticked off, you count the ballots, and you say, well, the number of persons ticked off is equivalent to the number of ballots, and therefore we've accounted for all of the ballots. What if we counted was to provide the parties an opportunity in their field work to look to the list of persons who were recorded as voted and to see if those persons were actually in the country or alive. That's what the field work could have done. It is based on that field work and the knowledge of citizens and their movements that the party came up with this list challenging the names of those persons who were recorded as having voted, and asked the GECOM to investigate this. It is based on the letters of allegation sent to GECOM that we now have before us, the letters that GECOM sent to the Chief Immigration Officer and the response of the Chief Immigration Officer, which adds up to evidence of the fact that people were out of the country at the time of poll, but their names are registered as names of persons for whom votes were cast. So we deal here purely with legal documents and statutory documents. The Chief Immigration Officer didn't have to wait on GECOM to have this information of who out of the country. He is, by law, supposed to have that information.
I want to get
Yeah, welcome back, folks. There you have it. There you have it. There you have it. Those things haven't been ventilated, you know, because them boys fighting the petition. That is the chief reason why lots of those issues have not been ventilated, because of the fight down that these petitions are getting, folks. We got Eugene the fight car tonight. We got people defrauding others in this country, as we were defrauded on August 2nd, 2020. Lots happening, folks, in the hinterland. You had a freak storm. And then you see a lot of warnings, as we said in our morning programs, a lot of warnings giving out. But, you know, a lot of people not really being held to account. That's part of the struggle we have in this country. Warnings are being given out, but people are not being held to account. That's the trouble we have as we begin. As you begin, if you're in Jamaica, folks, they're telling us y'all got a storm heading your way. If you guys are in Jamaica, Tropical Storm Raphael is nearing Jamaica. and it is forecasted to only strengthen as it draws closer. Right? So this is Tropical Storm Rafael. You know, the male storms tend to be a little more mild. When it's a female, then you gotta worry. Right? So that's what they're telling us. Central Caribbean, you are to brace this Monday evening. Brace winds of 45 degrees and a position at about 175 miles north of Kingston, bearing down on Jamaica. Brace for impact. They're expecting heavy rainfall, 3 to 6 inches, with isolated amounts to the effect of 9 inches, right? Which may lead to flooding and mudslide in Jamaica and also Cuba. You might want to watch that. Our thoughts and our prayers with our Caribbean brothers and sisters. Belle Crawford, good to see you there. Beryl and Renella, Donna, Leon, June. If you're on that side of the Atlantic, folks, be careful. Be careful. Share the live if you're joining us. Smash that emoji button, folks, as we head on to other things. That's some of what's going down around the Caribbean. Congrats. We see a lot of folks, some names that we know are getting a lot of folks graduating. This is that season. You all know November. All November's graduation happening at the University of Guyana. And of course, when we see our countrymen well-deserved, who are, graduating from the University of Guyana, certificates and degrees and undergraduate degrees, master's degrees, you name it, we're happy. They're telling us that Anne Green, you remember Anne Green from the Child Protection Agency? Anne Green, she's going to be conferred with an honorary doctorate. You got Vickinson Nally, a whole host of names, folks, well-deserving. Guyanese, of course, well-deserving Guyanese. They're going to be conferred. We have Sir Ronald Ramjatan, founder of Baron Foods. You have Mr. Arif Ali. He's going to be conferred as well. Professor Ian Robertson. He's going to be conferred as well. Victor Insinali, Christopher Fernandez, Ralph Brasilio. A lot of folks are going to be. Anne Green, as I said, is in there too. Patrick Parbu Dial, he's there too. Congrats, Pauline Thomas, is it? Yeah, Pauline Thomas. Ezek, is it Ezeke? Mr. Ratcliffe from that fantastic cultural band, the Yoruba singers. Love to hear those guys. Mr. Ratcliffe, he's going to be conferred as well. Folks, honorary doctorates. Congrats to all of them and all of the folks who are graduating from the certificate level right up, folks, to your PhD, right up there. Congrats to each and every one of you. You work hard and you deserve it. Take a bow, folks. We're going to hit that bell one time and say congrats to all of those folks. Congrats to each and every one of you. Yep. You guys watching us tonight, this Monday, the 4th day of November. Tomorrow night, this time, folks, the Americans are in the throes of it, of that national election there. And it's either Trump or it's either Kamala who going to be in the White House. Who are you guys pulling for? Who are you folks pulling for? Let us know. Y'all want we know? Let us know who you guys are pulling for. But congrats again. Tomorrow night this time, in a different place. We don't know. We're going to watch and see how the day unfolds and decide whether we're going to come with you guys or not. We are going to watch it. And folks, they're telling us that in Latin, sad turn of events. In Latin, they're telling us a man has been attacked by pit bulls, in the plural. So this is in central Rupodoni last Saturday. It was mauled to death by 2 pit bull dogs. And police sources have confirmed that the owner of the dogs is a 32-year-old businesswoman. She has been arrested, and the investigation is ongoing. They said the man has been identified as one Gordon Ford. There in Latem Central Rupununi, mauled to death by 2 pit bulls. People always think these are pets. These we can control these dogs and you can domesticate them, but history has shown that these dogs can turn on a dime like that. Turn on a dime like that. Be careful. Those folks who own Rottweilers, pit bulls, and so on, give it to y'all. But be careful. Be careful. As I said, the 32-year-old businesswoman who is the owner of the dogs, she's been detained and the investigations are ongoing. Mauled to death. Gordon Ford, our thoughts with his family, folks. That's not a way you'd wish on anybody. That's so. That's not a way you'd wish on anyone at all. As we turn to other things, folks, we're listening to the Politics 101 with Dr. David Hines quite recently, and he was pointing out, when we're talking about the close of sugar estates, it's a broad conversation we have to have, a very, very broad conversation. Dr. David Hines, take a look, folks. Take a listen.
A commission of inquiry had found that the sugar estates shouldn't be closed. However, the situation is that the sugar estates are very unprofitable. In fact, they are a burden to the public treasury. Dr. David Hines of the Working People's Alliance told a press conference today, Monday, that he was at pains to ensure that the sugar workers weren't harmed while the industry was being right-sized.
And so it was that thinking that drove Dr. Thomas not to recommend the closure of the estates. We do, however, continue to believe that it is not sustainable to maintain the industry in the way it is being maintained with large subsidy from the government. We cannot continue to produce sugar at the high price that is being produced. In effect, what we are doing and what we continue to do is to subsidize those who buy our sugar.
He said that the WPA isn't surprised that the industry is in trouble. He admitted to supporting the Commission of Inquiry a decade ago.
We have to be very careful when we're dealing with an industry that is so rooted in the culture and the politics of the country. And so there is no one solution. And that is why we are saying that we would support another commission of inquiry.
He said that his party will now have to see whether the closure is an option. Dr. Hines said that it would be very difficult to maintain the industry based on the level of subvention. He said that the government took a long time to reopen the estates.
What they're banking on is that the windfall that we're getting from oil, they're transferring that to the sugar industry. Well, that in itself is not sustainable. That would lead to the so-called Dutch disease that they mentioned, where we are taking money and depending a lot on the oil and gas and then taking it to subsidize another industry.
Takuma Ogunsei said that the COI had recommended a holistic policy of diversification.
We, the WPA, has always been very conscious that GECOM cannot survive in its present structure with all the estates, but at the same time, when we decide to right-size the estates, we had an obligation to do it in a way that brings as little as possible hurt and discomfort to the working people.
Yeah. What we're following, you see this? So the issue, as Dr. Hines says, is a very, very nuanced issue. Very, very nuanced. Even though sugar is not going any place, this thing ain't gonna take off. Sugar, we ain't gonna bring back the glory days of sugar. That's just the reality of it. We can't see our brothers and sisters in the industry gonna be put on the breadline and we just leave them like that. And that's why a number of training programs, right-sizing of the industry and retooling our brothers and sisters who inhabit that industry took place under the last government. Now, these guys brought them back. They said, we can open 3 sugar estates. 3. Right? They open back 1. And what is it producing? What's happening there? These are the difficult conversations we don't want to have. These are the very, very difficult conversations we do not want to have. Over the weekend, there was a freak storm there in Karasabai. We learned this morning that the civil defense said they were, not civil defense, the region rather, said they were dispatching folks. This is Region 9, Karasabai. The regional authority said they were dispatching folks to get a sense of the gravity of the damage there and whatever support the folks down there in Region 9 need. Folks, you all notice this? Region 10 had a freak storm recently. Folks are still waiting for relief there. Still waiting for relief. No, you got Region 9 now. Similar freak storm. The emphasis here is on the weather pattern, and nobody said it's the government created freak storm. Right? But our response to it is another story. And as we engage climate change and all these other myriad issues over time, right? We got to get better. We can't get worse at it. We got to get better. We got to get systems in place. We can't prevent them from happening, but our quick response and so on can mitigate the hardships that our citizens face. It's just the reality of it. And so we saw a lot of buildings knocked down, walls of homes missing, roofs gone, and so on, similar to what we saw in Linden. And so we encourage the authorities to spare no expense. Push your body, man. Please and thank you. Push your body. That's what we're saying. Push your body. And let me move things forward. Over the weekend, we saw Amanzo Walton Desir, our very own, talking about poor governance in this country. And she was on a Barbadian talk show, discussing about how governance in this country is poor. I know lots of you hit us for this. Right. But it is what it is. Lots of us stifling our conscience there. Stifling our conscience. And the folks had a freak storm in Linden. One fateful, I think, was a Friday evening. And all now, people still waiting for relief. What kind of country is this? What kind of fool country is this? Now you got that incident coming to meet what's happening now in Karasabai, Region 9. It lends credence to what a man is saying. Look, nothing irregular in this place here, Nothing irregular. Here is a member of parliament, shadow for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, on the Marcia Week show there in Barbados, as they try to understand what's happening here in our little 2x4 here. One of the things, again, Amanzo highlights, she raises the issue that, you see, governance in this country leaves a lot to be desired. Take a look, folks.
Our very winner takes all system.
Yes.
They're able to get away with a lot because of they have one seat in the National Assembly, and they're willing to use that one seat to drive whatever the government's agenda is, irrespective of how ill thought out it is. And so Guyana is suffering from a lack of good governance. There is not a sober, temperate approach to the management of this oil wealth. And the sad reality is that we are going by the way of a number of countries that have discovered oil, and instead of being better off for it, found themselves worse off. One would have thought that with the plethora of examples in the world today of what not to do, that the government of Guyana, Irfaan Ali's government, would have made a concerted effort to avoid those pitfalls. I mean, there are 1 million of us in this country, not yet 1 million. The last census pegs us at under 800,000. And so there is no reason why there is such poverty in the midst of all of the plenty. There is no reason why Guyanese children are still going to bed hungry. And let me tell you what bothers me about it, Marcia. Irfaan Ali does not get to traipse around the Caribbean, around CARICOM, and present himself as some sort of champion. He's presenting himself as a champion of food security when Guyanese continue to be food insecure. When Guyanese cannot afford basic food items, I'm talking about the ordinary hardworking Guyanese, not the elites that seem to be the only class of people enjoying the largesse of this oil wealth. So he does not get to traipse around CARICOM and present himself as a champion of some sorts, because he is not. Because charity begins at home. And you cannot teach to CARICOM about food security and your own people are food insecure. It is hypocrisy. You cannot preach to CARICOM about our Haitian brothers and sisters when Irfan Ali's government's first order of business was to revoke visa-free travel for Haitians to Guyana. He does not get to do that.
Yep. That's the reality of it. And we told you guys in our morning program, we went through, for instance, today's Starbucks News. Monday's Starbucks News publishes the, how the cost of living affecting you. We touched on quite a number of them. Last people keep saying all the time, things tight, things tough, things rough. Young people working, old people retired, pensioners, all say the same thing. Things rough and tough. What we gonna do? How things looking? Huh? Infant trips. Talking about food security. Grazing mere black belly sheep here. Eat not with grass for what? For what? Marudi Mountain deep south had a robbery of a Georgian mines outpost there over the weekend. Robbery and abduction. This is deep south. Them boys carrying affairs now out. Way out from region 4. Deep south. Bushmouth. They say the name of the place is, I think. Yeah. Bushmouth, Marudi Back Dam. And the update on this, that the police are telling us that they're now collaborating with the Brazilian authorities as they hunt these, I think 4 guys, they tell us, committed this act on this outpost of the Georgian Mines Commission. Marudi's mining area, gold mining to be precise. That's what goes down there. A lot of disadvantage to our indigenous brothers and sisters. We've talked about this lots of time. But the same installed regime sending people there to mine, usurp the people land, rob them of their mineral wealth, rob them of what is beneath the feet. You could imagine you in your own village, you can't walk and go some places. Some places are off limits and you got rights and title and all that. To the land beneath your feet, transport and all that. So this robbery happened in that area there. Bushmouth, Marudi Mountain. And again, the update on this that they're telling us they are now collaborating with the Brazilian authorities. Never a dull moment in this country. Y'all can agree with us on that. Never a dull moment in the 592. It's always something grabbing for your attention. Always something. Things get more tight. And this kind of pattern, abductions and robbery and murders and drive-by shootings and so on. Study countries who've seen oil, the advent of oil. They start pumping oil and, things start looking nice. Those people who weren't tasting the sweet tend to do all sorts of things. You only got Trinidad as an example. Right? Trinidad into the production of oil over 100 years. Look and see what's going on there. There's so much we got to guard against. But you got some big head people think they alone got all the answers to everything. They got all the answers to everything. We got to watch them. We got to watch them, folks. We got to watch them. So robbery in the Deep South. And then right here in the national capital, you got some people defrauding others. Mechanic is now on $300,000 bail as he allegedly was involved in an excavator fraud. This is Carlos Holmes of Liliendal, 3rd Street, Liliendal. He was placed on $300,000 bail, charged with fraudulent misappropriation of $7 million in a deal for an excavator. Let me see somebody with a card the other day. Jesus Lord. One thing in this country, somebody always trying to pull a fast one on you. Well, he appeared in the magistrate's court on Friday and pleaded not guilty to the charge, placed on $300,000 bail. You stand up too long in this country, them boys gone with you. Gone with you. Please and thanks. Gone with you. You know, we're still examining this whole issue of the cash grants. And I saw a colleague from the Lines for Change, Michael Carrington, the deputy chair of the Lines for Change, deputy chairman. Michael said, you know, if you all trust this list so much that we got here, and it's a good list, use the list to change the cash grant, the share rather, distribute. Use the data from the list we have. And if we think the list is good and well. Take a look at some of what Michael Carrington of the Lines for Change said recently.
The government recently announced the payout of a $100,000 cash grant to every person. It has also announced the creation of an app to facilitate the payout. However, not everyone supports the creation of this app. One of them is AFC Executive Member Michael Carrington.
That move is intentional in terms for the PPP to gather information about people in different communities. We already have the national database list in terms of the national registration list, with approximately 700,000 people is on top of that list.
He said that all that's needed is for the dead people to remove from the list.
Every village have a list with the amount of people that live in that particular village. So all we need to do is check those people, check their homes, who live in those particular homes, and the check cut for that particular village. So you would not have the problem. Having the new, what they call app, will create a lot of confusion.
He said that many will be deprived of the cash grant because those who fail to register, although living in Guyana, will be excluded. In the same manner, people go to vote, they will go and collect their check.
But we have to have a proper list with the proper names, all the dead people we need to remove. We know fully well dead people can go and pick up a check and change it. So I am telling the PPP government, right now, don't worry with that opting. Just fix the voters list, everybody names on that, and then cut the checks for the people.
Yeah. Don't worry, up business. Michael Carrington says that is going to pose some real problems to Guyanese. But let's see. We heard last week that this app was being refined and, you know, it was being tested rigorously and all that. You know, you see behind the scenes, a man at the foot upon the desk watching the people say, huh, really? Is me talking about that? Rigorously tested. We'll see. We'll see when the app happens. What is the outcome of it, folks? What is the outcome of this app? How it performs? You hear app breakdown, overload, too many people engage in the system. Then I'll get some warnings. You know, one household at a time. You're gonna give you a special time a day when you can go on this app. Watch and see. Michael Carrington says it's gonna be confusion. We'll show you this morning about lots of warnings that we keep seeing. You know, that's all you get in this country. Warnings, especially those folks at the top doing mischief. Warnings. So the police, traffic chief, warning e-bike users to use according to regulation. If you run afoul of the regulation, what are the consequences of that? You got to keep warning people all the time. One that we saw again today, for instance, Guyana Forestry Commission warns wood processors to adhere to code of practice. You got wood processors in this country, again, folks, running afoul of what is expected of them based on regulation, based on rules, based on what is lawful. The system's supposed to kick in naturally. See, this is the kind of country we got to devise all expectations. You see? You got a country where a minister could do the most egregious thing. President going to ask you, you want to resign? Right? That's it. The most egregious thing. And we were all tracking this, the infamous engineer from Region 8, who the vice president himself said was in a conflict of interest. Getting contracts in the very region. He's the supervising engineer. He said, give me the option, man. He decide whenever you're ready, if you want to be an engineer or you want to be a contractor, earning millions from the government. And that's it, you know. We know if the man make up his mind, if he take the deal, if the man doesn't take the $40 million for the contract, gone on to other things, suddenly system. But again, the point we're making here, all you get is threats. All you get is threats. Sound and fury, but symbolizing nothing. In that case, sound and fury. So again, in this instance here, Forestry Commission says to what processes, please adhere to the code of practice. Or else what? Or else what? What's going to happen? 4 years in. You understand why what's happening in Guyana police force happens? One man and 800 million in an account. You understand why? What happened to them, by the way? Not like the engineer from Region 8. Where do we feel like, you know, whatever. What's it comes to do? And that's why the period we're entering into, folks, is an interesting period. An interesting period. And a lot of questions still have to be answered. And that's why we took our time. We know the introduction, the opener, was a little long. But to walk you through what transpired in 2020, because we know some of you might have missed it. Those of us who were in the throes of the recount knew what we saw coming out of those ballot boxes, knew what transpired on the East Coast, especially. Persons were amazed when those boxes were open. And these villages, they say, traditionally vote red. All the documentation missing. And then boys point a finger at Apnu and said, them is irregulars. And in all the villages that traditionally vote green and yellow, all the documentations are there. It's one of the most startling things. You wouldn't see a replication of this any part of the world, and it is accepted, never followed up on what transpired there. We were told that those returning officers or presiding officers, the officials who manned those polling stations, were summoned to a meeting at GECOM. Nobody turned up. Nobody turned up. And we were more than happy to hear Vincent Alexander recounting those episodes and saying that we got to get the system right. That is one of the reasons why we're asking for biometrics. One of the reasons why we're asking for biometrics, and we're not the only one, because we know now definitively, right, we were reminded that Jagju as well wanted biometrics. This is going to be a very interesting election. And as we get forward into it, more of these issues are going to surface and resurface. So Jagju better get used to it. Nandlal better get used to it. Jagju is the one in 2015 who articulated eloquently and elegantly on biometrics. Right? We ain't going to keep that from him. I said we were the first. Like we were the first to proffer the cash grant. No, he could take ownership of that. He argued for biometrics. Take a look.
The Alliance for Change contends that Guyana is in a better place to implement biometrics given the oil resources. AFC executive member Beverly Allard told a press conference on Friday that Vice President Barra Jagdu had made pronouncements on the importance of biometrics.
You can vote in the machine, and then it gives you, when you finish voting with the machine with enhanced biometrics, it emits a small paper which shows a ballot, which shows how you have voted, which you can then, like some systems have this method, which you can then put in the ballot box. So you have both systems. You can only access the voting through enhanced biometrics like an iris scan, but you safeguard against presiding officers or anyone else acting capriciously and giving extra ballots out to people.
Ever since, the political opposition has been calling for biometrics.
We remind the PPP General Secretary of his statement. If those systems were being argued for then, the argument is even stronger now. Moreover, Guyana is now better placed with the financial resources to implement biometric identification and electronic voting.
However, Attorney General Anil Nandlal has gone on television to state that there is no need for biometrics. He stopped short of saying that the government will not support biometrics.
If the VC is to be taken at his word, then he will follow through and honor the statements he made. He will instruct the PPP commissioners on GECOM to pursue these systems. It can get done in time for the 2025 polls.
She said that while in opposition, Vice President Jagdew argued for a new voters list and enhanced biometrics. She said that her party also welcomes electronic voting. Now is the time for the Vice President to back up his words.
Yep. Now it's time for the Vice President to back up his words. Wonder how long I wonder how long we're gonna wait. Folks, y'all know anybody from KFC as we talking about waiting? You know. Saturday was the wedding anniversary. My wife and I celebrated. Celebrated a milestone. So we ain't gonna work plenty. You know, you want to set up cooking and this and that. We want to have a quiet day, just, you know, reflecting on how far we've come and where we are and how far we gotta go. Y'all reflecting too in your relationship and stuff. Never mind that. So we said we're gonna lady said she wants some KFC. Ordered KFC around 4. They call it around 5. We still waiting. We still waiting for the KFC. Today's Monday. Monday. We're on the 9 o'clock hour. We still waiting for the KFC. You know anybody by KFC, folks? Huh? You all know anybody by KFC? If you are, I ain't said the chicken is chicken is cut nice. I ain't saying as nice as churches, but it's got real nice. You see? But this service, we still hold it. I don't know if they're flying this one in. You know? We got the best KFC outlet. I don't know if that's coming from, but we still waiting for this chicken from KFC. Waiting. They call us, you know. They say we close. They say we close. Somebody said it, and it said the chicken gone AWOL, absent without leave. Ayindi says he's all the way in Boa Vista, looking at credible source. Ayindi lives in Tiger Pond, if I remember correctly, right? In the Pacaraimas there. Ayindi telling Boa Vista, why are you doing so far, Ayindi? Message me, please. I need to talk to you. Message me. But we still holding for this. You all ready from KFC? You all know? Hope we don't have to wait for credible votes. We heard last week as we wrap up now. Little Lions for Change says 6 years after. Oh, it's time. We have a mechanism where both sides can agree what will generate for us a credible process that we all can be proud of. This 2025 election gonna get teeth. It's gonna get teeth, folks. It's gonna get teeth. The closer. Credible results. That's what we want. Credible results.
After 60 years of independence and after 1992, we should at least by now have worked out a system which will deliver fair, credible results acceptable to all political parties, not acceptable to one or the other. And if we as a country cannot arrive at a position where our institutions can deliver results which are broadly accepted, we are in a difficult place. Because if we cannot even manage the process by which we identify those who will govern us for the next cycle, then it means that we are always going to be in a state of perpetual crisis. And worse than that, if we continue to have results that are not accepted across the board, we will create, unfortunately, the incentives for substantial parts of this country to disrupt the good governance of the country over the cycle of elections. They will have no trust, no confidence, and therefore their conduct may well be incentivized towards other acts of disruption. I just merely wish to go back to when the good leader of the opposition in the 1970s, Dr. Chetty Jagan, was alive. You had several incidents of burning of sugar. You had several incidents of sabotage. And at the time, the government of the day said that this was based on an attempt to derail the economy. So whenever you choose to pick your era, you cannot have parts of this country that don't accept the results.
Yeah. Still waiting on credible results. Still waiting. When will we have it? You know, like waiting on a chicken. Yeah, that thing hurt me, you know. That thing hurt me. Waiting on a chicken. KFC, over to you. Whenever you get around to it, folks, that's going to do it for us at this end. That's our time this evening, good folks. And that's our program. Thanks for all of your well wishes. I see some of you saying congrats and wishing us many, many more years. Yeah. You know, yeah. I'm a very easy person to get along with. Very easy to get along with. Very easy. Very loving person. Folks, have a great evening. That's our time. That's our program. Stay well. Let me come off quick for the girl. Come and grab the mic and tell you all the real story. That's our time. Tell you all the real story. Take it easy, folks. Have a great evening.